Matthias, welcome to the Democratizing SEO podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. What about you?
Yes, very well, thank you. Very, very well. Today we're going to talk about designing a search engine today. And you have a very interesting profile that I saw on LinkedIn. And I wanted to have you on to discuss what it'll be like to create a search engine using knowledge graph technology. So thank you so much for being here. Now, you're a third year PhD student. Your PhD is in knowledge graphs. I am curious, what led you to be interested in knowledge
Oh, okay. That's kind of a long story, but so 4 years ago I ended up my master's degree, and during the master degree you do some internships, and I ended up doing an internships. First one in India, actually. That's the first time I heard about knowledge graph, but more in the sense ontologies. I heard about ontologies before knowledge graph in terms of the term that was used. And then I ended up doing another internship in a company called Semantic Arts. They are designing knowledge graphs, but with, they are designing ontologies with the OWL language. And at the end of this internship, they proposed me a PhD. So I said yes. It was COVID also at this moment. So I was, that's a good occasion. Let's do that. So, yeah.
What do you think about search engines today? Just generally, when you consider, should I say, the finding and being satisfied with search?
I think I might have a kind of a geeky point of view, because to me there is not only one search engine. It's just a technology. So you have different kind of technology. And when we think about search engine, we think more about the Google one, but the Bing one is a different one. And we can name a few like this. And actually, even within companies, you're going to have more specialized search engine. So they're going to have different strategies. So depending on what you want to do, what is your audience, you might design the search engine differently. But I think they are getting pretty good. They actually got so good that we forgot that there was actually a machine with a specific design behind, I think. And I've listened to a podcast of yours, the last one you published with Veronica Amsbach. I like her very much, so I might be pretty biased toward what I kind of align with what she says. And so, yeah, short answer, very good. They are very good now.
If you were to design a search engine today, what would you do? And I want to unpack this, but just as a general overview, what would you do if you were designing a search engine today?
I first ask myself, what is it, what I call the corpus? What is it I'm looking for? Is that images? Is that documents, text documents? Is that web pages? So you need to know what you're looking for and what you're within, where is it and what you're looking for. And so that's the first thing. And the second thing is, who's going to be my users? Depending on who are your users, you got to adopt different strategies, different approaches. That's the first thing I would do. And then we can talk about technologies and how to implement. But yeah.
So let's use Google as an example, right?
Okay.
They have their user base. It's pretty much everyone, right? The entire world they want to service, right? Every user online they want to service. It's also the same as social media platforms. They want to service everyone online. So considering you're designing a search engine for the globe, actually, let's restrict it to English speaking people just temporarily.
Okay.
Right. How would you go about doing so?
Um, so considering my audience is very, very wide, their approach makes sense because they have also a product approach where they know that they have to make the search accessible. I'm not, as a user of Google, I'm going to use what I know the best, which is my language. I'm not going to have to learn a specialized language. But so I would definitely go their way that use the content of the page, but also, and that's, I think, what they understand the best is you think you're looking for something, but they decided what you're actually looking for, in the sense that they decided that what you're looking for is what the other people like you are looking for. It's more, you think, I think there is and I'm making supposition maybe, but I think there is a distance between what you actually what the word you're using to search and what actually happens behind is completely different. But the funny thing is that you can actually use Google as a real search engine if you know the language of Google. They have some specialized command that you can put in the search bar to filter out and, say stuff like, get me only the PDF documents. You can do those specific stuff, though most people don't do it, I guess. I try to be as focused as possible, but I tend to go everywhere. So you can refocus me anytime you want. No worries.
That's okay. No worries at all. Search is a very interesting area for me, because when I look at it in the terms that when people look for something, there is almost a relationship between the user, the searcher, and the search engine, the platform. A user pretty much has to improve their, if you like, ability to search, the way they know how to search. An example of this is searchers today are a lot more adept at searching than searchers 20-25 years ago. Also, from a search engine point of view, they have to anticipate and almost forecast what the user is searching for or what they want in order to appease them. Where we are right now, who would you say brings more to the table, so to speak, in terms of that relationship between the user and the searcher? Is it the user doing more of the work, or is it the search engine who is leading the user?
I would say I would vouch for the second one, because again, there is this product idea behind. The search engine is actually a product. So you want people to adopt your product. So it's the job of the company to make it as easy as possible for the user to use the tool. Otherwise, you need to bring some other incentive for the user to actually adopt your tool. So I would say, it's definitely more the search engine job to make it as accessible as possible.
Will a knowledge graph technology make it easier for the search engine and better for the user?
Depends. The thing is, to me, the word knowledge graph doesn't mean much. To me, it's kind of a trendy word that everyone uses. But what is really hidden behind is very different. There is a variety of knowledge graph. So it's definitely useful. And I'm also very enthusiastic about knowledge graph. So I think it's going to be everywhere and we're going to use it, but it's going to take very different forms depending on what you want to do. So in terms of specifically just for the search engine, you can consider a knowledge graph as a set of entities linked together, just the way, at least what what Google is saying, that they have a knowledge graph about the entities, and you can get those surrounding entities when you look for someone. They're going to show you also who are related to these entities. You can say that's a knowledge graph. But I think you can also say that they probably have a graph of all the searches that you as a person did on their search engine. And to them, that's also knowledge. And so they may well, and I'm suppose they also have a knowledge graph about you and your way of functioning on the web. Do you see two different kind of knowledge graph, but it's still. So short answer. Right, focus.
Something that's been on my mind for the last few days, and I don't have an answer to this just yet, but I'm curious to know what your thoughts on this are, is Google search, all search engines are pretty much a free product. Why is it a free product?
Well, it's a free product financially wise. It's free because we consider in the notion of free, we consider only the money side, but I don't think it's free. You're giving up something. So you're giving up your data, your what we call personal data, but you're giving up you're giving up knowledge actually, because you're giving up your habits. How are you searching? And that's something valuable. So it's more like I don't want to say we kind of went back to the very beginning of a market, in the sense that we're not just exchanging something for money. Now we're exchanging something for something else. Like, I don't know what's the English word. You see it's just
so
that
like the barter system.
Yeah. We don't pay just with money. We pay with something else. They just
Attention.
make you believe that it's free. Yeah. Yeah. Also, attention. And
Do you think that's a fair exchange?
I think so. I mean, I tend to think that we got too much used to have some free stuff, in the sense not paying for anything. But we also tend to forget what investment is required from Google. I mean, in terms of what they are paying for their servers, for all the research that they did. So if you want to put everything down to money value, like financial value, I think they're paying way less than what they actually paid for. They made an investment, it works. The thing is, now we are a lot on the privacy side. We don't want to give up any personal information about us, which makes sense. But then we got to accept also that there are companies who want to make money. So if you don't want to give up your personal data, you got to give something else. So whatever it is, it's probably going to end up being money, but we cannot have it all. It's still an exchange of value.
Yeah.
So the good thing though is that now we kind of have more choice. You can use other solution that doesn't take your data if you wish to. That's it. So
this has led me to thinking about the value exchange, has led me to ponder whether we are the knowledge, as in people, are the knowledge or information that search engines are looking to organize. Let me explain it a different way. Google's objective, their mission, is to organize the world's information, all right? And we tend to think of information as something that we want to know about. But now that they've moved from, as they put it, from strings to things and are more focused on entities, I'm viewing information as entities, and entities being names, places, or things, names being people, and people being the most important entities for search engines to understand. So in other words, information that they're trying to organize and make accessible are people, humans. And I've come across the term digital twin. Sorry, go ahead. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it's just that I don't think it's specifically people that they want. People is kind of the, let's say, the end target, but what they're trying to organize is more the ideas, the thought process, because something that we should not forget is when you're searching, you have something in your mind, and there is already a transformation of what you have in your mind and the way you express it, whether it's an image, a video, an audio, a text, whatever. You already have a transformation to make that is on your side. And Google and all those search engines, what they try to do is to kind of reverse engineer this work that you did by yourself of transforming your thought into text. So they don't want to organize you. They want to organize your thoughts and align them with the other ones, of course. Anyway, kind of a side.
How does a knowledge graph technology makes this simpler or easier to do?
So you would agree that thought is something very hard to represent. It's very abstract. So the thing with knowledge graph is more than the knowledge, it's the graph structure. You have knowledge graph. So what basically it says is that you want to represent knowledge, which is pretty much anything. You can consider anything as knowledge. And because we are dealing with with computers, we need to have a computer readable way of representing that knowledge. And it turns out that the graph mathematical structure is a good one to represent pretty much anything. So that's why I believe we use graph. And since to me, representing ideas, it's a lot more about the metadata than the data actually. If I say, okay, Austine, there is the string Austine, and then you can tie this string to an entity and say that's a person actually. So you're already adding more information, more metadata, that's a person. But then you're pulling the strings and you say, oh, but what is actually a person? You can go very, very far with this. And actually the hardest thing is to know where to stop, because you can describe pretty much anything in any details with this graph structure. So I think it will make it easier, but also harder. It's like a new tool. You got to learn how to use it. So, okay, I'm going to stop there because I can go and I'm going to lose the initial question from there. So
what would you say Google search does right today?
I think they are very good at, okay, let's put names so I don't just define a few terms. I do the difference between the user search and the user intent. Mm-hmm. So making the distinction between what you really want to have in your head and what you write down in the search bar. I think they are pretty good at defining the user intent, what you actually have in your head based on what you write in this. So, and not only the text that you write, they actually have way more data around that, but that's something they are very, very good. That's one thing. And the second thing they are very good at is making it working in practice. All the engineering that goes into how do you make that scalable? How do you, build an infrastructure of computers, interconnected computers that actually process all those information. So that they are very, very good at this, for sure.
You mentioned um, right there that they have a lot of data around
Mhm.
what someone searches for and what they intend to
Mhm.
search for, or what they intend to seek. What are some of the data points that users are not necessarily aware of?
Um, I think it's kind of probably the profile. You, you, they gather data, but not only about you, they gather it about many other persons. So they can match you with other persons. You can think that you're very different from everyone else, but you're actually most probably very similar to other people. So I think you're very rarely actually aware of the trend you're in, like in the stuff you like, your habits. You might think you're different from the others because I actually think that's something we take pride of right now in today's world, being different from the other. But actually that makes us very similar. And I think that's the kind of stuff they can know because of the data they gather. And they have a much wider view of the world than we have as human. So they have those kind of information that we don't see because we are locked in a bubble that is very little compared to what they can access to. They can see the other bubbles. I don't know if trying to put images on what I want to say, but
Yeah,
I get you. I
I
guess you get the
completely
idea.
get that. Yeah, totally. Where would you say their Google search are vulnerable to competitors?
Oh, that's a very marketing question or business question. I'm not you. Um,
The reason I ask this is because I've been doing a lot of research around search overall and also social media. And all
mhm.
of my thinking, and the reason I'm looking into social media is because of the search elements in on social media.
Okay. Okay.
And when I look at TikTok, for example, it's clear to me that they are going after the search space. A year ago, 18 months ago, I would have said
Okay.
potentially they're venturing into search. Now it's clear that they're venturing into search.
Okay.
They're prompting people to search. They're very much influencing users on the platform to search on the platform. And I am seeing a huge almost battle that's brewing between
Okay.
search and social media. And because knowledge graph is a technology that both types of platforms share,
Mm.
and they all aim to appease users and to keep users on their platform, I think the competitor of search has expanded. All right. So I'm thinking, okay,
Mm.
who are Google's competitors and what are Google doing right and what are other competitors, specifically within the social media realm, doing that Google isn't quite doing yet? And my thinking is around people.
Huh. Okay. Can I take 5 minutes for asking you questions?
Sure, go for
Can I?
it.
Okay. I'm not using TikTok. I just know the name and I just picture very basically how it works. So I've got no idea how it works. When you say TikTok is going for search and they are prompting their user to search, how does it materialize? Is it like video search, image search? Does the user has to ask something vocally or write down something? How does it, what forms it
Okay,
takes?
so I'm seeing two things with search. One is their shop page, which to me, if
Okay.
they're going after search, e-commerce is a huge area, potentially the hugest within search, right? So for them to have a
Okay.
shop specific page, that to me indicates that they're clearly going after search. So that's one thing. The second thing is when you watch a video, below the video, there is a prompt to search for something that's said or indicated within the video, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
if you're watching something about, I don't know, Nike, and it's an ad, it's a video that features a sports
Mm.
person. They'll, within the search prompts, they'll have, I don't know, the person's name and then whatever they said within the video, which
Mm.
prompts people to search for that terminology, which I, as a user and also an SEO person, I actually follow that prompt. Just partly curious, partly because I actually want to know
Yeah.
what the person is indicating, right? So it's
That
those are
makes
the two examples right there, how they're prompting people to search.
So I think I was reading something yesterday. I don't remember where, but the person was saying that I don't know, maybe I'm going to put random dates, but let's say in the 2000s, you were doing advertisement in the sense that you would put a lot of picture of your product everywhere in the street so everyone see it and gets aware of it and go buy it. Now, it has kind of, it's still there, this kind of advertisement, but it kind of has shifted in the sense that now if you want to have people buy your product, you need reference. You actually pay someone to talk about your product. And for these people buy stuff because you've seen the person you're following on the net, on whatever network using it or saying it's a good stuff, whatever. You're going to buy it for that. And I'm actually the first one to do that. There is people on the internet that I like. If they publish a book, if they say, oh, that's a good book, I'm going to go buy it, whatever. So the thing is now it's not a question about is the product going to be useful? Is it going to be good for the user? I think the question is more, I'm going to define what the user need. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you buy stuff you don't need, but the person or the company that builds the product, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to build a strategy so the user think she or he needs that. Does it,
Yep.
it's,
That's
you're
what we
not
see on
building the
TikTok.
product because it's useful. Exactly. So tying up, going back to the search part, what you're doing is I'm proposing you. So when you watch a video on TikTok, you're watching something and there is some stuff that you might want to buy in the video you're watching. So I don't want to call that search. It's like, hey, I'm working in the garden. Oh, I'm showing you there is good strawberries there and there is apple there. Okay, you're there anyway, so just buy it, and I'm gonna make make it as easy as possible for you to. So I don't want to say it's search.
Well,
That's where I think yeah,
a
go on,
lot
go
of the
on. Sorry.
times the search prompt has nothing to do with a product at all. It might be a
Oh,
fact finding or informational based search. So what is ontology, for example? They'll have that
okay,
as a
yeah.
prompt. And if you were to click on that as a prompt or indeed search for it within the search bar, it will take you to a list of videos that has that information. So that's the sort of thing that
Mm.
they have. It's definitely product based, but also informational based searches as well.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna try to forget about the business side of it. Let's say their intent is actually to provide you good information. So okay, they get you by picking up your interest, and their goal is to keep you on their platform. So keep your focus. So they're not going to sell you a product. They're going to give you an information and hope you're going to jump from one information to the other.
Yeah.
Okay. So knowledge graph definitely is very useful in there just because of, again, the graph structure, because whether it's a person or an information, let's say you have a node in your graph for ontology, well, the term ontology might be very closely linked with the term knowledge graph. And when you're going to look for the knowledge graph, the ontology, then you're going to go at the knowledge graph. And I don't know, maybe you're going to end up with a specific company like Neo4j or go with the W3C standards. All those stuff are probably, mathematically speaking, clustered around this ontology node. So yeah, knowledge graph definitely helps there. But
I've heard the term.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was going to derive it. I want to touch on something before the end about knowledge graph, but let's follow up your string. No. I don't want to cut you. I'm not going to forget about what I want to say.
Okay. Okay. So the term ontology and nodes, they're very popular within the knowledge graph sphere. I'm not entirely sure SEOs are fully, should I say, familiar with them. So could you explain what the two are, ontology and also nodes, please?
Okay, so we're going to touch on what I wanted to speak about right now. That's good. That's the actual question. I'm going to be biased anyway, because I'm in the process of writing my PhD, and that's the manuscript, and that's the moment when you haven't understood anything before, and it's the eureka. You're like, oh yeah, I got it all right now. So everything is just going to be my point of view, my take on this. And so I studied now 5 or 6 years ago, and it took me like at least 6 years to get a decent idea about all this field. And I'm going to reference one book that is called The Knowledge Graph. That's the name of the book. And I can send you the link if you want. It's an open source book. You can, you put the link and it's a web page of an entire book. And the book gathers, I don't know, I've got it here. Let me check. I don't know if you can see, but there is like all those authors. So they kind of gathered together and tried to define what is a knowledge graph,
right?
In the mathematical sense. And what I like in this is they say, when you speak about knowledge graph, you gotta make the difference between the knowledge, which is the abstract thing you want to represent, and the graph data structure that you use. So the graph data structure is the mathematical tool, and the knowledge is what you try is the abstract thing you try to represent. So when so that's one part. You got to be aware of the difference, and then they describe in the knowledge graph. If you see that as a box, they describe two kind of graph. They call them the domain graph and the data graph. The data graph is usually what you start using the most because that's the easy to visualize. Typically, when you say, I've got an entity, another entity, a relation, you picture a graph. It's a natural way to visualize stuff. But that's the data part. And to give some example, I believe that's a lot used in the deep learning landscape, because in those kind of algorithm, what you like is the topology of the graph. When you do the PageRank algorithm, that is well known for the Google search engine, at least that back in the day, they were known for the PageRank algorithm. Are you aware of the, yeah.
Yep.
So they use the topology of the graph. They use the graph structure. But then when you want to describe the knowledge per se, you want to describe the stuff like rules. You want to say that every person has a name, or every person has parents, for instance, those kind of stuff. And those, it might not make real sense to represent that as a graph. And so, but you still represent it as a graph, but not as a visualizing or to do some math on this. You use that as a data exchange format. And that's where we come back to ontologies and the semantic web and all those technology stuff. So I'm trying not to lose myself. So let me repeat. You have the data graph and the domain graph, and you have a mapping in between. But anyway, make the distinction between your actual data, which is a real graph structure that you're using for visualization to do some graph algorithm on top of that. And then you have the domain graph, which typically is the ontology. What we call the ontology is typically domain graph, and that's the part of your knowledge graph that says all the logic, that describes all the logic about your knowledge. Stuff like a child has parents, their parents are a mother and father, and you can say, many different things. In the domain graph, you're using a graph structure for exchanging information. You've heard the name RDF?
Mm-hmm.
So RDF is an implementation of a graph data structure, but used for data exchange. It's because there is a standard and you can easily exchange information on the web in this format. And then you're going to have languages like OWL, RDFS. Veronika Hansbach, she knows a lot about Shackle, which is another language. Those languages are standardized, but in their standard, they have a part of the standard that say, hey, by the way, this language, you can represent this language using RDF. So there is a graphical representation of this language in RDF, and here's the standard way to make the translation. So I'm trying not to lose myself, but what I typically see is people don't make the distinction. They see knowledge graph as one big thing, and when they start going into knowledge graph, there is so many different things.
Yeah, that's where I am.
So okay. So and I'm gonna get very excited there because that's my eureka moment, and that's again only my point of view. But first thing first is making the distinction between the data structure and what you want to represent. And in terms of users, I think I don't remember the name, the company Ontotext. Do you know the company?
Yep.
So I think it's their CEO. Once he told me something like, if I remember well, he told me something like, when you see a knowledge graph, there is basically two main use cases. And either you want to use the knowledge graph for the data structure. So typically you want to do some machine learning. You want to use the graph topology for your whatever the use case you have, or you have a metadata issue. Okay. And the SEO thing is typically a metadata issue. You want to add more metadata on your web page so the search engine can use it. And the metadata you're using, you can represent it in an RDF format. And you kind of mix all together because RDF is a graph. So you end up speaking, oh, I've got a graph. But what you're truly doing is adding some structured information into your web pages. At least that's my understanding of SEO. Stop me if I'm wrong. But you add some metadata. And then behind those metadata, there is a standard that says, hey, this metadata, you can represent it that way, and it's standardized there. And so it means that there is a direct translation with whatever you put into your web page and the RDF representation of that. And because we have RDF now, we can exchange this information easily on the web. Oh, I might have gone everywhere there.
No,
I don't know
it's
if it helps,
fascinating
but
because I'm just realizing how much more there is to uncover
oh yeah.
around knowledge graphs, especially for search engines specifically. Something else I wanted to ask you today, get your thoughts on, because this is something that I think it just gets me, knowledge graph search just gets me thinking literally almost every single day. I'm thinking about all of where we're headed with knowledge graphs. And the
Okay.
way I'm looking at it now is the technology is used to serve people. But I'm wondering, with AI and AI chatbots becoming more popular, is it a case of the knowledge graphs in search or for search are priming or being prepared for AI chatbots to carry
Mhm.
out the research for people and almost do the heavy lifting for people to arrive at the what they're seeking when they search for something?
Okay. So by AI chatbot, what you referring to, I'm gonna guess, is those large language models, typically ChatGPT, and you
Yeah.
can ask questions, they give you answers. Okay.
Hmm.
Um, so I agree with you. It's gonna change our way of searching for stuff in a good or a bad way. I don't know, but it's gonna change something for sure. Where those, okay. I'm trying to structure what I'm gonna say. Otherwise, it's gonna sound messy. Um, for knowledge graph, to me, historically, there is two communities that are merging. So make it short, the semantic web community where the term ontology is more prominent. And then knowledge graph, I would say, comes more from those big data structure where you can do some math, and this is merging right now. But now you have another community that is merging, that is the natural language processing community with those large language models, and the knowledge graph one. And those large language model, and because I don't want to stay locked in the chatbot, but you can consider large language models as chatbots.
Hmm.
What they are very good at is reproducing our way of speaking. Okay, they probably have knowledge inside. The issue is that us as human, we don't understand their. I like to speak about their embedding space. You know, you mathematically what you always do is building a space with like many different dimensions. Something that we're not able to understand because basically we can see only in 3 dimension. But mathematically, what you do is building a space with, I don't know, thousands of dimension if you want. And that's how the LLM think. That's how the LLM organize its information. But that's something us as human cannot explain. And our input and output with the LLM is this language. So what we are trying right now to do is prompting the LLM and making assumption of the answer the LLM gives to try to explain this black box that we don't understand. And on the other side, you have those knowledge graphs for which you can explain everything because you build it. You can follow up a link. So it's knowledge graph. You can see it as structured information that when you ask something, it's there and you can ask, why did it give you this answer? And you try to merge both so that you're actually really asking something to the knowledge graph, and you let the LLM do the translation of what the knowledge graph tells you and present it in, I don't know, I've lost myself. But do you see my point? Structured information, something we cannot understand. So let's say unstructured information. And we try to use the structured information to drive the unstructured one so we can get a better understanding, or at least drive the answer of the LLM. That's my understanding of where are we heading in the research space, at least. And by research, it's going to end up as a product someday. So
with knowledge graph search engines, is there a prominent focus of an entity or a now I need to what I mean by
Yeah, sorry.
prominent focus is it better? Okay, let me rephrase it this way. Google's mission is to organize the world's
Mhm.
information, right?
Mhm.
Is it better for Google to know about entities and then organize information based on the entities? Or should they seek information any and everywhere and then try to figure out where that information fits to specific entities?
Mm.
So in an SEO or marketing term, is it better for a knowledge graph search engine to know about a brand or a something that the brand does? So a generic term,
Mm.
or
That's a good
doesn't it
question.
matter?
I don't know. You know,
This has been
you
something. So the reason I'm asking this is because, again, thinking about where we're headed from a search and social point of view, they both share the same audience, users. They both aim
uh
to serve users, right? And they both serve users with information. Search engines, Google, used to
Mhm.
do it in what I consider an old traditional format. So they search the web for information, but it's not necessarily organized the way social media organizes information.
Mm.
Social media
Okay.
organizes information based off of uh, entities, people, and then the information or the content that the people have to offer. So it has an inbuilt knowledge graph based organization, which I'm seeing Google and search engines are focusing in now. They're very much interested in knowledge graphs, organizing information in a better way. That's also more cost effective. I mean, if Google's continuously crawling websites to find information, they're always going to come across the same sets of information, right? So it's better,
Mm.
in my mind, for them to know about entities and then to consider the information that entities provide.
Okay, don't take anything that I say for being the truth. I'm thinking out loud because
Sure.
you're triggering ideas in my head. So you distinguish two parts here. You have Google on one side, they are crawling the web and harvesting information. On the other side, they try to find a way to serve this information to their user.
Yeah.
So two different tasks. On the first task, meaning harvesting information, my bet would be that there is not that much information. There is, the information, the knowledge set is very small, but the way you can express that information is very big. Do you see what I
Mm-hmm.
mean by
Yeah.
so you always come across the same knowledge, but every people speak about the same thing but in a different way.
Yeah.
So they are harvesting little knowledge but in a very diverse way. And afterwards, what they have to do, first they have an issue as they cannot keep up with the web, so they have to compress everything. And as a side note, I think LLMs are pretty much data compressors. You can see it like
Mm-hmm.
this. They compress the knowledge. And the good thing is you have a nice way to decompress this knowledge. If you look at the zipping, when you do a compress on your computer,
Mm-hmm.
there is some information theory based algorithm behind that compress the data and they are sure that you can then compress and find back exactly the same data. So typically, I don't know a lot about information theory, but I know that there is at least lossless decompression and compression that has some loss. And in some cases, you want exactly the same data. And in other cases, you don't care to have the same data back. You can see in a large language models like this, they compress the data, and it's a lossy compression in the sense that you don't really know what you're going to get back, but when you're going to decompress the data, meaning prompting and getting an answer, that's your decompression way. Okay, I made a little side. Let's go back to the point. So on little knowledge, but a very different way, many, many different ways to express the same knowledge so that it ends up being a big chunk of data. And on the other side, you need to represent this knowledge. And knowledge graph is a good way to, at least it has been identified as a good way to structure and organize this knowledge. So, but once you have a knowledge graph, you want to have different parts in the knowledge graph. There is the knowledge you harvest, and then on the another part of the knowledge graph is going to be about how do I show this knowledge? How do I serve this knowledge? And that's also where the personalization part. If you've pictured the knowledge graph as a big, big graph with different subgraphs, you can imagine a subgraph that is the knowledge, the pure knowledge, or the pure content. Well, actually, you can have, so you have the pure knowledge on one side. You're going to have another subgraph that is the representation of this knowledge. So the pieces of content, the actual web page that present this knowledge. And on the other side, you're going to have another subgraph that is about the people. What are their expectations? What are the kind of words they understand? Are they speaking French, English, Chinese, whatever? And then you're going to have another piece of information that is going to be about, okay, linking all those together. For these kind of people, I'm going to present this kind of knowledge in this manner. And that creates what you actually serve. Do you?
Yeah. Question.
And you can, that's the knowledge graph. Okay, sorry.
The more search engines know about users, the better they can service them. True or false?
True.
The more
make it short.
search engines know about businesses and the audience that they serve, the better they can connect them to the audience that they want to serve.
True.
True or false?
Sorry. True.
Wow. Okay. Yeah,
it's always a question. It's always about, we come back to the notion of everything is free on the web. When Google thinks search is free, if you want to have good results, you don't pay, but you pay with your data, you're going to get good results. If you don't want Google to get your personal data, you're going to have less good results. But the important thing is that you can make the choice and you're aware of it. That's the most important thing. It's not about whether you can decide by yourself and say, okay, I want to give my data and do whatever. That's pretty much fine. The only thing is being aware about it and being able to make the decision.
Yeah. Choice is what matters here.
Definitely. And the truth is they don't always give you the choice. That's the problem.
If you were to look into the future, where would you say we're headed? And I'll let you decide on the time frame. But where would you say we're headed with knowledge graphs, search engines, and AI chatbots for the end user?
I should have prepared that one because I've watched one video and that's the one you're asking at the end of the time. And I haven't prepared. So where are we heading? Scary time. I would say scary transition time where what we cracked is the accessibility, meaning graph and knowledge graph, it's very old. I mean, the first ideas are probably from the 60s, but it was very, very complex. And right now with those LLM things, we created the interface that is very, very, makes it easy for everyone to actually interact with those kind of tools. So we're going to end up in this kind of scary time where everyone is experimenting. Everyone is able to say, I know. Nobody knows. We're just trying stuff, see if it works, and that's it. But it's going to be, okay, let me restructure. We have 3 minutes left. I'm thinking about something I discussed in a meeting just before. In computer science, we were doing more theoretical work. You're gonna describe a theory and then look at, is the theory actually working or not? And if it's a good theory, then you can use that as a mathematical tool to, develop new stuff. With this LLM and knowledge graph stuff, I'm gonna mix it all together. We switch to, we don't even bother to build a theory. We just try stuff. We try, and maybe in 10 years, we're going to build up a theory about all the tests that we made is going to lead us to a theory. So we kind of switched the way of searching for stuff. In terms of how it's going to translate as our searching way, I don't know. I don't know. We're going to have to change a lot of habits for sure.
Yeah. We're at the point where we're using a lot of field data, as we say in marketing, rather than lab data. And we see this all the time in search. Everything is real time, and the test is the real thing. Fascinating times ahead.
Definitely.
Matthias, thank you so much for your time today. Where's the best place for people to find you online?
Well, I would guess my LinkedIn profile is the best way. You can contact me there. Yeah.
Awesome. I'll have your LinkedIn so people can get in touch with you. Matthias, thank you so much for your time. Have a brilliant day, and we'll catch up again another time, I'm sure.
Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Cheers. Bye now.